Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I was asked to discuss number of players in a role-playing game. What's too little? What's too many? What's an ideal number of players involved in your session? I have had as few as one. I will solo a character from time to time for development to put into a supplement usually, or just for exercise to test out a system. I'll roll up a character and I'll put them through some paces. Two, I have run one-on-one games with a few people, most notably my co-author Victor Gibson. Those are some really intense and very fascinating sessions. Past two, three, four, five people, you have enough time per person to have a very interesting interpersonal dynamic. You can start showing a little spotlight on every character, give everyone their own arc, really focus down. You get a little bit of that character interaction and that interplay between characters that gives a little extra life to things. 6 people, my ideal maximum. I have run a lot of games for 6 people, me and 6 people at the table, 7 players total. At conventions, that's the default. You want to be able to get people in and out of a role-playing game in 4 hours, a 6-person group. That's about what you can manage in that convention setting. Everyone gets to do a little bit of something. You got enough time to go around the table. You have a combat or two, and you can manage that in the time allotted. More than 6. I used to say that once you had more than 6 people at a table, you are no longer role-playing, you're shouting at each other. To some degree, that is true. On the other hand, I run a demo game weekly at the Game Chest, a friendly local gaming store in my local mall. I can walk there from here. It's kind of amazing. And I started a table on Tuesday nights with 5 or 6 people. Apparently, it got a little popular because I have had routinely 10 or 12 people at the table. Someone can't show up, someone else has. 2 or 3 more people show up a week. They've moved to 3 tables on Tuesday nights to accommodate all of the people showing up for Dungeons and Dragons. My table routinely has between 10 and 12. Those are 3-hour sessions, officially 6 to 9 o'clock. Is that too many people? Yes and no. I run games differently when I get that many people. When I'm dealing with between 2 and 6 players, regardless, and this is regardless of system. Some systems handle large number of players better than others. But 2 to 6 players, we use the full initiative rules. Everyone generates their own initiative number, and we change the initiative order every combat. Everyone gets a little bit of time to have their spotlight or do what they need to do. I started using the Adventure League format, which was nice mostly in that you don't spend a lot of time with backstory. Oh, you're here to help out with people. Awesome. Let's go into this. No, we don't need to explain why you're here. You're just here. Let's go. 7 to 12. Initiative goes out the window. Because the time you spend arranging, okay, everyone roll your initiative number. Now what is it? Now let's arrange that top to bottom, highest initiative to lowest initiative. Let me make sure I get the monsters in there at the same time, so that you know where everyone. Now we start on my right, we start at the left. The group makes one initiative roll. They're either going before the monsters or after the monsters, because that is primarily the technical and tactical concern. Do you fight the monsters first, or do the monsters fight you first? Do you get your attacks off first, or do the monsters get their attacks off first? And that affects the whole flow of the combat. So we'll start on my right this time and go around the table, then the monsters will go. Or the monsters will go, and then we'll start at my left and go around the table, and the monsters will go again. It is the simplified form of initiative that most groups will go to when you get tired of having to calculate initiative all over again. Mind you, there are any number of ways that you could do initiative rolling individually every time and make it flow a little bit easier. I've got a guy, one of my players, dutifully keeps track of everyone's numbers and arranges that at the beginning of the combats, and that could be done with every combat in a larger group. The larger the group, the more time combat takes. Everyone has to declare their action, make their roll, resolve their roll, fail or hit doing damage. And some people just take a while to make and resolve their rolls. They have rules to consult. In Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, there are spells. What does my spell do? Can I get this spell off? Can I make this maneuver? What does this ability do in this situation at this time? Where is my mini? What's my range to my target? There are considerations and calculations, and yes, you can be doing a lot of this work when it is not your turn or when your turn is coming up. You can prepare for it, but when the time comes, you have to settle everything with the game master, make sure that your roll is what you think your roll is, get your calculations, your bonuses, your penalties, everything lined up. It takes time. Every person adds to the amount of time it takes to do an entire round of combat. Shortening the initiative calculation gives more people time to do their stuff in combat. If I've got 3 or 4 people at a table, I can do 2 or 3 combats in a short session. If I've got 12 people at that table, the entire session may well be one fight. Tuesday night group. 10 people running up to the end of an adventure, or of one session, realized they were going to get into a fight. We ended a few minutes early one week because there was just no way that group was going to be able to have that fight in that amount of time. Started the fight at the beginning of the session the next week, and it was 2.5 hours long. A chitin, a chain devil, and a hydra against 10 player characters. The other problem with having that many people, if you've got, I rolled a hit, what do I get players, people who are just, I've got my number, I roll my number, it comes out, you can get through a combat much faster, but it's not more interesting. I have very good, very creative players. I'm going to go in and try and distract the monster with a song so that the rest of the party doesn't have disadvantage on their stealth checks because there's nothing to hide behind in there. That is a good maneuver. That is a creative use of your combat turn that is going to get advantage for the rest of the party, or at least negate penalties or disadvantage for the rest of the party. But it takes a little longer to resolve. What are you singing? How well do you do? Make a performance roll. Do you have your instruments? Does the monster realize it's being charmed? What's the result of that if it happens? You have to work this out. There's a little role playing involved. It takes more than this is my number, I roll this, do I hit? And you don't want to penalize someone's really, really good idea because you have a big group and you got to get through the combat. No, you make more time for the combat so that those ideas can come out and flourish. With larger groups, and I made this mistake in my last game. Not that it was that much of a mistake. Everyone is at the table so that their character gets to do something awesome. Everyone's there to tell part of the story, to be part of their own story, as well as part of the group story. And you will have that one player, or those two. In a small group, you get the one player. Well, we're going to go over here and take care of this. I want to go over there and do something completely different that's going to take a while to resolve. Okay. That's how the character's designed. That is the character's backstory. That is perfectly in how this character be played. 3-4 players. Okay. Sure. We'll take, these folks will have 10, 15 minutes. You'll have 10 minutes all on your own. Sure, that's fine. We can do that. It leads to interesting things. You've got complications. You've got hooks. Awesome. You have 10 people there. Well, we're going to go over here. Well, the two of us want to go over here. I'm going to go do this thing over here entirely separate. That's going to take a while. Someone's not getting their spotlight that night. That's going to cost someone their time at the table. The other thing with larger groups, especially in a demo situation, like what I'm usually dealing with, different players have different levels of engagement. Someone will show up at that table with stuff they want to accomplish. They have agendas. They want to get it out there. They will step into the middle of things. Can I do this because I really want to get this thing done? Awesome. That is a great level of engagement. I love seeing that. There are other people. They are not as outgoing. They are not as convinced. They might not be as experienced a role player. They might be trying not to step on toes. Any number of reasons. They sit back and they wait for their part of the adventure to come around to them. That's fine. These are two viable styles of play. This works. As the dungeon master or game master, depending on your system, you are moving a spotlight around the table constantly. That's what you need to be doing. This person gets a thing, that person gets a thing, that person gets a thing. If there's someone who is not as engaged, you do have to reach out a little bit and engage them. Everyone is there to do something. Everyone's there to roll dice. Everyone's there to have a part of the story. You need to engage everyone at the table. The person who is running off to do this thing that is going to take a little while all on its own is going to take time away from the person you need to reach out and engage. On the one hand, you could limit the amount of time individuals get. This limits the amount of story that you can pump in through that character. You can introduce characters or NPCs or plot elements or storylines through that person who's going out to get stuff. I love it when a player goes out to get into some trouble, because I got a bag full of trouble here that I'm waiting for an opportunity to distribute. My brain has trouble in the back of my subconscious that just pours out my mouth when a player puts themselves under it. No problems with that, unless it's going to take time away from engaging other players who might require a little more engagement. 3, 4, 5, 6 players. That is less of a problem. 12 in 3 hours. I've got a pound of inspiration and everyone needs to get a little bit. The person who takes 10 ounces is limiting everyone else to 2. Is that how many ounces are in a pound? Something. Because time is your resource. Inspiration's a resource. Creativity's a resource. Time is a resource, and you only have so much. If I was going to run a 10-hour session for 12 people, oh yeah, unlimited go out and get into troubleness. That's fine. 3 hours. I might be tempted to limit excursions out of the group. It's like, come on, guys, just do this thing as a group. We can do stuff in downtime. We can do stuff next week. We've got the Discord, so you guys can chat with me in the meantime and work stuff out. But right now, I've got 3 hours. Can we just go have our adventure? That sounds like you're railroading. That sounds like you're trying to limit people. And you are. You've got 3 hours. That's not a problem. That's management. I feel a little bad when I've got a large number of people at the table and I don't think everyone's having fun. That's all I care about. Does everyone have a story? Is everyone having fun? Was this an enjoyable experience? People are not taking time out of their busy week with their stresses and their difficulties and life happening to not roll dice and not have fun. I've been in games where it felt like I had to be there. I've been in games that felt like they were a job. Like I had to show up and I had to do this because of a feeling of requirement or duty, or literally because members of the group wouldn't let me quit the game. I don't care if you're not having fun. You can't leave the game. And yeah, you can. You're not there to not have fun. You're not there to be dragged through ridiculous levels of drama that you're not enjoying. You're not there for extra stress. You're not there for anxiety. You're there to have fun. You're there so you can do this thing from your imagination that brings you a certain amount of joy. Remembering that that is what everyone is there at the table to do. The dungeon master, game master, what have you, has the responsibility to look around that table. Every combat turn, every time you speak, when you're talking from an NPC's mouth, you gotta look around to the people that are engaged and the people who aren't. And you gotta have an engagement. You gotta have something. There are people who are literally waiting for the adventure to happen, and people who are running off to do their own adventure. Take time away from the adventure that you have for the people who are not engaging. So, to get my maximum effect with a group, to have my maximum enjoyment, and to ensure that the group is having their maximum enjoyment, regardless of their engagement level, or how fast the system calculates initiative, or how long a combat turn takes, between 3 and 6 players. Tops. Max is at 6. 6 makes it a little tricky, but you can get away with it. 4 or 5, pretty ideal. I got a pile of games up there. I'm in my mind going through Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition in particular. Combat turns not that long. If you know what's on your character sheet and you understand the notes you've written down your notes, haven't you? If maybe you've got the spell cards, the resources, if you've looked up everything that you need, you can get your combat turn done in a couple of minutes, maybe less. If you are the what do I roll style of gamer, and your time to your turn is, oh, now I'd better look up what this spell does, and you're referencing books and takes time, it can happen. Your turn can take 5 or 6 minutes to get through. If you have a clever plan that requires role playing and subterfuge and extra rolls and additional information, 5-6 minutes. If you're going much past that, the game master really has to cut it off. smaller groups, you can burn time like that on extra stuff. That's Dungeons and Dragons. GURPS, a combat turn can take 4 or 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. Longer if you're a beginner or if you haven't prepped for your turn. Call of Cthulhu, Stormbringer, percentile systems in general. If you know what you're doing, if you're not doing anything too complex, 5-6 minutes. There are games up there where your combat turn can take, oh god, Champions, the hero system. Your combat turn can take 15 or 20 minutes. Some systems are optimized for fast running. Some systems are optimized for detailed running. Are they coarse? Are they grainy? Are they fast? Are they effective? Somewhere in the middle is your ideal system. Your mileage may vary. I've played very fast systems, very slow systems, and 5-6 players, any of them. Any system will do because, take your time. We got all afternoon, 4-hour session, 6 players, sure. Take your time, work out what you want to do. We'll go around this and we'll have some role playing. We'll figure out what the rewards are and what you have to do next in the investigation. That's all fine, take your time. 10 to 12 players. I need an efficient system. I need a system that lets that combat turn happen as fast as it can. Or I run a game without combat. That's fine. There are games, there are settings, there are systems where you can do a few sessions without combat and you're doing Call of Cthulhu. You don't need to have a fight every Call of Cthulhu game. That's mostly investigation based. If you're having a fight, you're probably dying or going insane, so you try to avoid things like that. It's not Monster of the Week, kick in the door, take the treasure. It's an entirely different kind of thing, and you can run that in a larger group. You like to be able to focus on individuals, but you can drive an entire table full of people insane all at once. That's fine. And that's okay. But if people are there for fight of the week, monster of the week, if they're there to burn off some steam and blow stuff up, I need an efficient system, something that kicks over really fast. Victory is good for that. D&D, Savage Worlds, Fate, stuff with a really rapid resolution phase. More than 12 people? If I am having this session over 10 hours, 8 to 10, I can do more than 12. It's going to be more than one group. These people are going to splinter off, and some people are going to go some direction, and some people are going to go the other, because keeping 12 people together, what is this? A Fellowship of the Ring? That's really rough. You got 20 people sitting at that table. I've had 20 people sitting at a table, and they're doing 3 or 4 things. Well, we're going to go over here. We're going to take care of this. It's just efficient adventuring. You go and do different things so you get to your goal faster. That's good resource management. It is nightmarish for the Dungeon Master because now he's running 4 parties. This is 4 different games entirely, running all at the same time, talking to each other, and trying to have a single cohesive narrative. It's difficult. There are times you want to have 2 or 3 dungeon masters. Someone who's got an idea of the overarching thing and is running things, and some people who are running the individual stuff off to the side who know what's going on, but who have to consult with the dungeon master who's got the main storyline going. There are ways to do it. One GM, one game master, one person at that table running the game for everyone else at the table. 12 is the maximum comfortable, even vaguely uncomfortable at times, number for a limited a convention or a demo run. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, that's 12. 12 at the most. People with different levels of engagement, people need their spotlight, everyone's there to have fun. You want to be able to spread that around. 4 hours is 240 minutes. At 12 players, you have 20 minutes a player. You're not going to give every player 20 minutes. You have to set things up. The dungeon master, the game master, has to establish narrative, has to describe things, has to do things that matter to all of the characters so the group gets a significant portion of that time. Different players have different levels of engagement. One player will absolutely take 20, 30, 40 minutes of your time trying to get something specific done. I want this very specific piece of armor, and I'm going to go wherever it takes to do that, and I'm going to go on the quest that the guy gives me so that I can get that armor. It's like, well, what about what everyone else is doing? I need this armor. If you let that happen, well, say you have 35, 40 minutes in narrative you kicked out, 200 minutes left. Someone takes 20 minutes of that. You have 180 minutes. It's time is money. Time is your resource. Time is what you're spending. And you need to distribute that amongst the players. 12 people, max, for a limited session. Unlimited sessions, your attention is also a limited resource. You can literally only give your attention to one person at a time, unless those people are acting in concert. The people who are gathered together and going and doing a thing, that's a situation. You have attention for a situation. You can monitor the people within that situation, but you got 20 people at the table. Well, we're going to go here, we're going to go here. You cannot do those two things at the same time. You can switch back and forth. You can timeshare that. Give them a few minutes, give them a few minutes, give them a few minutes, give them a few minutes. That starts to get more complicated than most people want to do. Well, we're going to go over here and hope that we've got the alarm turned off in time. We're going to go over here and make sure that the alarm is that we go through once the alarm is turned off. Well, how long does it take them to turn off the alarm? Do they get there before the alarm is turned off? After the alarm is turned off? Have they actually managed to succeed at that? Have they made their roles? Are these people aware of what these people have done? Can they communicate at this point in time? They're all existing in the same world at the same time, and the world that they are existing in is the dungeon master. The dungeon master, the game master, is everything that people see, hear, everyone that they interact with, all of the sensory input they're getting, all the situations that are happening in the world around those people. It's all happening at once. It's all happening simultaneously. You have 3 or 4 groups of 3 or 4 players sprinting off, doing things. Some people can do that. Some people can timeshare that and organize that and keep their notes and diagram it, and there's a flow chart. And 12 people. I would like to run consistently for groups of 4 to 6. My Wednesday night group, Manhattan Beach group, stuff I do for my patrons online. The Thursday night group that I play in, nice, tight, small, controlled groups that have a good amount of time. There is, the Thursday night group is the 3-hour slot on Thursday night, but there's 3 of us playing, 1 dungeon master, and we all get a little bit of spotlight. If that adds a player or 2, we're still really good. We've all got plenty of the resource of the dungeon master. So when it comes right down to it, Dungeon mastering, game mastering, requires a certain amount of time management. The better you are at time management, the more players you can handle. For God's sake, cut it off at 12 if you have that ability. If you are going to have more than 12 people in that group, and it happens, grab one of them, tell them they're your associate game master, and have them handle offshoots or things off to the side or stuff that is separate from the main storyline, and bring it back in at some point in time. But your mileage may vary. My very strong recommendation, a dozen. 6 ideally, a dozen at your max. More than that, form a separate group or have an associate game master that can take some of the load, because there is only so much DM to go around, who has only so much time to go around in. If you want to run weekly or every other weekly or monthly, and you want to be able to continue this for any length of time without burning out or being frustrated or having people come to you because they're not getting enough game, 6 to 12. Well, thank you for following me along on this particular bit of time management and mathematics. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. I'd like to hear your comments on how many players you've handled, how many players you think you should handle. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Leave me a comment. I will love getting a comment. You will love leaving me one. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, why not? My channel is awesome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you want to be notified as soon as my videos come out, hit the little notification bell next to the subscribe button. If you would like to contribute to my channel in a more substantial fashion, I invite you to hit me up at my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much. My name is Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.